there's so many things that can affect a healthy, consistent, intimate relationship, physical relationship with your spouse. It seems like we have an enemy who really wants to come after that part. And so if we are struggling to not want to be physical, then we need to look at it. I just want to say, fight for it, because this can be a beautiful part of your relationship. But this is an area where in various ways the enemy is going to want to target and dismantle this piece.
Hey moms, welcome back to the Gather Moms podcast. We are so excited to be jumping into a new season with you. It is called Fix Your Face. And every time I say that phrase, like, it runs through my mind all the time now. When I'm in the grocery store, when I'm at church, when I'm in the classroom teaching my kids, I'm like, fix your face, Rebecca, fix your face. Like, it's just always in my mind.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that as moms, it is almost a constant struggle for us.
Constantly, because, and I mean, even not just as moms, but just like as human beings in the world, you know, there are things. Even I catch myself, like I was sitting at a coffee shop today working and I'm reading things and like saw the news on my phone and I'm like, Kate, fix your face, because people are probably like, what is wrong with that girl?
You know what I was thinking is that when we drive in our car, like by ourselves, that's kind of like our safest space. Can you imagine what is on our face when we're, listening to the radio or a podcast? There is no telling what the person next to us can see.
Speaking of driving, if somebody like cuts you off or something and you pull up next to them at a light,
I do not look. I do not look. And if I'm with Greg, I'm like, do not look. In fact, don't pull all the way up so that we are not even with them. No. You look at them?
I used to more, and then I got reprimanded by my husband, who was like, this is Texas. People have guns. Yeah.
You can't do that.
I know.
Like, I try to avoid being close to them. I just like slow down. I'm like, fine. I don't want to be near you. No, I'm not doing this right now. No.
Well, and the longer I drive, the more I have just decided that like people are not intentionally out to like irritate me or bother me.
Because I do the same thing to them.
All the time. And they get irritated that I cut them off. And I'm like, I can see how from your perspective, I cut you off.
Yes.
I was just trying to switch lanes.
Yes. Yes.
So.
No, when I'm driving to school in the morning, I am not a kind driver. Because I'm trying to get there because I'm usually late.
Yeah.
And there is some little person just enjoying their morning coffee on the way, probably texting too. And I'm like, ugh, get out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah. My husband drives a lot now for work, and he said it's just crazy to drive because people are just so erratic in their driving, and they're going fast, they're going slow, they're switching lanes without looking. And he said every time he drives past and he looks over and they're on their phone.
Oh, he looks at him. Don't look at him, Jeremy.
He's not looking at him to give him the stink eye. He's
wants
curious
to see. Okay.
if this was because they were looking at their phone, and it just is.
I know, but half the time it's me. I'm the one looking at my phone.
Listen, we're all guilty.
I am so guilty.
Yeah.
I'm going to get struck by lightning one day.
I record stories when I'm driving sometimes.
Listen, you do, and I want you to know, every time you do that, I'm like, oh my gosh, Kate, are you safe? Like, I'm so worried about you.
People message me, and they're like, it makes me nervous when you do that. Fine, skip the story, bro. This is the only time I'm sitting still, and I usually start talking at a stoplight, but then
the light turns green.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the only time I'm sitting still, so...
I remember years ago when we first started doing Gather Social, I did a story on the way to church one day, and we had somebody that was part of our community reach out and be like, that is so wrong.
Very upset.
Like, very upset.
Yeah.
So I don't want people to think I'm doing it while I'm driving anymore.
I know.
Good for you for being brave.
Yeah, I mean.
Bring it, people.
Listen,
let's go.
Yeah.
So we talked last week kind of just about the theme of this whole idea, fix your face. And Kate shared with us the story of Jehoshaphat. And just this king from Judah who went up against a battle, but decided to put his eyes on Jesus. Not Jesus. That's so funny. Listen, I'm teaching Old Testament in school right now to my freshmen. I say Jesus all the time, and then I'm like, wait a second, he's not there yet. I mean, he is there, but like we don't talk about him yet. Like,
sure.
They don't know his name is Jesus yet.
Yes.
So God.
Yeah.
But 3 in 1.
But sure. It's not really wrong. Fully wrong, but just not as precise.
Not as precise.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll wait to the New Testament for that. That Jehoshaphat kept his eyes on God in the midst of this battle.
Yeah.
And what we just want mamas to know is that we are facing those same battles in our life today. And no, it's not invading armies and it's not, swords and spears, but it's things that are hitting us every day, causing us to stumble. You talked about last week to panic, to go into our own power and try and fix it. And instead, what Jehoshaphat taught us through his example was we need to stop and just put our eyes on God. That he is really our first line of defense. And even for those of us that have walked this road with Jesus all these years, we still forget to do that. And we still try to go into our own power. So I love the verse you shared, 2 Chronicles 20:12. It says, we do not know what to do, but our eyes are on you. That needs to be on like a plaque in our house.
Yeah, absolutely.
A Post-it note in the car. Everywhere we go. So we want to use this season of the podcast to help us as moms keep our eyes on God, because so much of life leaves us feeling helpless. And we all have knee-jerk reactions that we look back on later and go, man, I wish I had just stopped and prayed, or I wish I had just stopped and asked God what I should do in that moment. So I think it's important for us as a constant reminder to say, hey, there's some different areas of our life and motherhood that we could just remind ourselves we need to stop and put our eyes on him. And I was thinking about in motherhood, it feels like we have to be good at so many things. Like we are the Olympic athlete of life. No offense to the men. But we're out here holding our own here in motherhood. And so I was researching and I noticed that there's actually an Olympic sport that's called the pentathlon. And it's 5 different activities in one. And you have to be able to do all 5 of these things at top level in order to win. So the 5 things are so random. Fencing. Swimming. Horse jumping. Shooting and running.
Wow, that you've got to be a diverse athlete.
That's intense. But then I thought about moms. Dude, we're intense. We are diverse athletes in our life of motherhood. So what do you think if we had to pick 5 totally different things that moms have to be exceptional at? What would they be?
Calendar arranging.
Oh, yes.
You know, like top.
Oh, I'm already out. I'm sorry.
I'm
off the stands.
I think, managing all the schedules and the gymnastics and parties and holidays and Okay. I think calendar arranging. I think kid dressing. So from cleaning out their closets when they've grown out of things to having them have appropriate clothing that fits them now, to passing on then the clothing to the next child.
Can we add in costumes to that for dress
up
days?
Add in costumes, add in pajama days.
Appropriate pajamas for middle school students. They don't exist.
And or, even an elementary kid and they're like, it's pajama day tomorrow. And you're like,
I'm sorry, we sleep in holy pants and
everything we own is ratty,
Yes.
So I think that could be one of the events.
I'm not sure that the names of these are working for me. I feel like we need it to be catchier, but let's keep going. Okay. Anything else?
I don't know. That's what I have for now.
I think moms have to be great at social interaction.
Oh boy.
So
that's where I get knocked out.
I've been in these situations lately where you're just with your kids at stuff, a sport or a game or whatever. And it feels like you have to be on, like flip the switch. Here we go. How are you today? Oh, that's so great. Hey, it's like, and like at the end of the day, you're so wiped that you find your face is blank. It's like not anything. It's like just this like almost droopy. You're like, I don't want to talk to anybody. But I have to. We have to be good at social interactions.
No, it's just like keeping up with everybody's stuff and remembering stuff. Because if you forget or they told you about something and they're like, I told you about that. And you're like, oh, okay. So, even last night we were at my daughter's basketball game, and one of the moms, I was trying to like engage with some parents afterward.
Look
and
at
everything.
you going above and beyond. Come on now.
Listen, it's Jesus. So I was talking to a mama and I was like, hey, she played a great game or whatever. And she goes, yeah, I'm just ready for the season to be over. She keeps getting hurt. And I looked at her and she looked at me like, how do you not know what I'm talking about? Because my brain was just kind of blank. And then I remembered her daughter had just fallen that game and fell bad on her shoulder and gotten hurt. But I'm just telling you, my brain I just was like, what are you talking about? Oh, this happened 20 minutes ago. Well,
you have so much grace for me. I get it. I just totally get it. Bless our hearts.
You're just like, Yes. Yes.
That's what we have to be good at, recovery. That's what we have to be good at. The recovery that happens in the moments that you do forget.
Well, and I had to like fix my face quickly to go quickly into like, oh yes, bless her heart. How's she doing?
Yes, girl. Yes. Okay, the other thing I was thinking about was food production, food installation.
The food event would be so multifaceted.
Yes.
If there was like an event where it was like you had a timer you had to like sit down, meal plan, run into the grocery store, buy all the things, come home and like prep 3 meals. That could be a whole Olympic event.
Yes.
Which would be great.
Listen, the other night I needed to cook. I hate to say it that way, but I needed to.
Uh-huh.
And I just decided to cook all the things I had.
Great.
So Greg comes home and he's like, I'm so confused. The Instapot has chicken. The rice cooker has rice.
Those go together.
Wait, you're making hash browns on the stove. And I was like, look, I just decided to do it all in one night. And then y'all can eat in any random assortment what you would like for the rest of the week.
I love that.
Because I don't want to cook every night. So can I just do it all at one time?
Yeah, no, I love that's fantastic.
So I think food something.
Hash browns, chicken, rice. Were there any?
Corn. We had corn too.
Okay, I was like, is there a vegetable?
There's a vegetable.
Fantastic.
We had corn.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like one of my main jobs is just asking my kids, have you eaten a fruit today?
I never ask my kids that.
What?
Shout out to the moms in the room that don't ask them. I don't care what they're eating. I'm not concerned about the
when
fruit,
they're littler,
the
you're the one handing them the food all the time.
Yes.
You know, when they get older, like Caleb, I don't see him for meals. You
Right.
know? So I just have to look at him periodically and go, have you had a fruit or vegetable? And he's like, waffle fries, Mom, potatoes. I've checked the box. And I'm like, don't feel like that is actually the box.
mean, we don't really eat them anymore in our house.
Waffle fries, potatoes,
vegetables, and fruit. We have potatoes a lot, but I don't ever really count that as a vegetable. It's a carb.
Listen, if y'all get that scurvy, you'll be like,
what's scurvy?
I think scurvy's like what pirates used to get because they never ate anything fresh.
Bless your heart. Bless it. Okay, so I was thinking about, as moms, we have all these things that we have to be amazing at. But there's one really important thing in our life that never really gets included on the Olympic sport list.
Yeah.
Marriage.
Yeah.
Like we have this other significant person in our life that potentially is actually more important than the children we're caring for.
Absolutely.
But we're not great at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it always gets put on the back burner.
Yeah. And, unfortunately, I think that's something that we all understand is the spouse can easily take a back seat, because you have these children clamoring for your attention, or you have children that want to touch you all day and want to hug you, want to snuggle you, want to, and so then your husband comes around and you're like, I'm sorry, man, I am
all touched
tapped out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I just think this is a great opportunity for us with this Fix Your Face to stop down and think about, okay, what in my marriage could I fix my face on that would really make a difference, that would be intentional? Today we're going to talk about the battle for our marriages. And just like you talked about last week with Jehoshaphat, it is a battle.
Yeah.
We have an enemy, a very real enemy, that is literally out to take our marriages down.
Yeah.
So I want us to kind of look at 3 things. 1, what is he attacking marriages with? What is he doing? How can we be aware of his schemes? Because I think for some of us, we don't even know that they're happening in our midst. And then 3, how do we fix our face on God? And what you talked about, prayer and praise as we move forward in our marriages. So, Kate, to start off with, what do you think the enemy is mainly or targeting or focused on when it comes to marriages today?
I see a few things. I think one of the obvious answers is busyness. We're so busy with our children's schedules and, all the things that we have going on that it's like it's hard to find time for date night.
Yes.
Or we're falling into the bed so exhausted at night that it's like you don't even really talk to your spouse.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of them. I think, too, what I see most often, we've been married long enough and have been doing this long enough that we've seen the 50% statistic of divorce happen. And I do not stand in judgment of that. but for the grace of God, so go each one of us. We are all fighting.
Right.
I think one of the common themes I see a lot, though, in marriages that are struggling is just this real stronghold of selfishness.
Yes.
I think that, a marriage cannot be successful when your primary concern is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be about serving the other person.
Yep.
And when we're focused on what's in it for me, what am I getting out of this, you're not meeting my needs, that it just starts to create, it's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Because that person's never going to be able to fulfill all the things. There's so much freedom when we can change our focus to how can I serve you? How can I be about you? How can I lift you up? But there's this weird sense, and we even see it a little bit among like women's empowerment and things like that, that it's, what are you doing for me? How are you meeting my needs? And it can really start to create this little place where the enemy gets in and starts to create some friction in the marriage.
Well, and what we've learned just from Scripture is that selfishness doesn't produce satisfaction.
Right.
So as long as you're self-focused, you're constantly on a race to find the next thing to make you feel good.
Right.
But when you shift your focus to the other person, there is a sense of real joy and real fulfillment in taking care of someone else.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. And that's a hard one to swallow, because I 100% feel selfish in my life sometimes, where it's all about me.
Yeah.
And my kids suffer, and my marriage suffers, and everybody does.
Well, and you do get to that point where, he is saying, hey, I, would love some physical affection. I mean, even if it's a hug, or he wants to cuddle at night or something like that, and you're like, I'm all touched out.
Yeah.
I think it's easy for the woman to say, how do you not see me and understand I'm exhausted. I've been serving these people all day. I've been looking forward to getting in the bed and not being touched. And here you are.
Yes.
It's very easy to see the woman's perspective there.
Right.
But it's very easy also to see the man's perspective.
Yes.
To say, yes, but I worked all day, and I helped with dinner, and I helped with the kids, and I want to connect with you physically.
Yeah.
And so, there's just these competing, I can't think of where the scripture reference is it right now, but it's the scripture that says, what causes quarrels and fights among you? Yeah. Isn't it your desires that are at war within you? And that is so much where our fights come from, is it's our own desires within us. And for me, so much of marriage, I can fix 99% of fights if I would just say, if he wants to snuggle at night, I just go, okay. And what is he asking for? 5 minutes?
Right.
Literally, you know, or he wants to talk. It's not like he's asking me to cut off a hand.
Yeah.
It's a small ask.
Right.
And there may be things that I need to have rearranged in my life so that I do have margin to be able to say yes to that and to even think about it proactively instead of waiting for him to ask.
And that's the thing I think I see with this attack on our marriages. It's so interconnected. Mm-hmm. Like, we almost think that it's compartmentalized, that it's one thing or the other, but they all go hand in hand.
Sure.
If you're not spending time together, then you don't feel connected.
Right.
If you don't feel connected, then you don't want to be touched. If you don't want to be touched, then you're not
there you
intimate.
Go. Yeah.
Everything just really goes hand in hand. And I think as moms, a lot of times we are compartmentalizing motherhood. I go to work and I do my job here. I come home and I do housework here. I go to the school and I do things there. It's like we're able to kind of like shift what we're doing from one to the next. But in marriage, I just think it's like it's one big spaghetti bowl of stuff that everything's touching one another.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what makes it overwhelming sometimes for us, is that it's almost like too big of a task to tackle.
Okay.
Because it's like, okay, but I could get the laundry done and feel like check. Or I could get the grocery shopping done and feel like check.
Okay.
But then with marriage, it's not just really like a one and done.
Sure. It's maintaining a relationship. And it's constant. Yeah. Yeah. I think there is, though, a piece where, if we do know we have these priorities, like if laundry is a priority, then we make time for it. Mm-hmm. We probably do it somewhat systematically. We kind of have a routine. I don't think, I think a lot of people think about marriage as like it has to be this spontaneous, romantic stuff all the time. I just think that's bananas.
It is.
In my life, for anything that works, there's a system around it.
Oh, you system people.
I know, but there's a habit. There's some, okay,
Yes.
like the laundry example. I'm not a girl who can do laundry every day. I don't like laundry. So everybody does laundry on Sundays. And so that's just when we always get it done. But then I know that on Sundays, the laundry is always going to get done. So in my mind, if I need to be better at encouraging my husband, then I should set reminders on my phone.
Yeah.
Every Monday morning at 8 a.m. that it says, send him a text.
Yeah.
Or that we have it on the calendar that 2 Thursdays a month we're going out on a date night, or, that the things that matter to us, that we prioritize it with our time, and we just make sure that we're in a rhythm of taking care of those things.
Okay, so this is such good discussion, because I'm going to push back, because this is where I feel the struggle.
Okay.
Is that there are certain seasons, maybe just months of my life, the whole thing goes out the window.
Okay, sure.
And so then it feels like a beat down, because you're trying so hard to get back on to the schedule.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that like this past week with school and work, and we had a bunch of stuff going on. We have not really talked or done anything this week, because every night we've been doing stuff till 10 p.m.
Sure.
And I think about sometimes those moms in our groups that are like, that's my everyday. How do we help them find that schedule and that rhythm? Because I agree with you. I have learned this year by going back to work that having a schedule is actually really healthy.
Yeah.
It makes you feel productive. It makes you know what's coming down the pipe. It helps you feel like you have, this sense of I have purpose. I'm doing things that are worthwhile and valuable. How do we help our moms that are in that place where they're like, I don't even know how to start? They've got 3 kids under 4, or they've got one in college and one in high school and one in middle school. How do we help our moms?
Well, I think there are seasons. And it's important for us to remember that there are different seasons.
Yeah.
So there may be a season in your marriage where you guys are getting to go out. There may be a season in your marriage where you're going out once a week and having a date night.
It'd be amazing.
There may be a season in your marriage where you guys are getting to go on a vacation every year. Like that may be a season that you guys are getting, and that could be a priority for you. But there are seasons, especially, there are just particular seasons in motherhood. Maybe it's when you have newborn and toddlers. Maybe it is in the high school years where you're busy during the evenings, where you kind of look at each other and you go, okay, this is a season that we're navigating. And so we have to prioritize our marriage in this season, but it might look differently than it would in another time.
Yeah.
So I think about, for us, like food preparation. When our lives get really busy, I just look at Jeremy and go, we're just eating out this week.
Right.
We're not going to be at home.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense for us to cook. And so let's just all just eat on the fly.
Yeah.
We're not even going to buy groceries. Like if the kids are home.
Sounds like the best week of my life. Let's go.
I'm just saying, there are times where you kind of go, okay, it would not make sense because of the way that things are set up for us to try and, eat at home this week.
That's right.
But in the long run, that would not be healthy.
Yes.
Because it would not be healthy for our family financially, and it would not be healthy for probably our bodies to be eating out all the time. But I think if you look at it and go, hey, we're in a little sprint where we kind of need to do this right now, but let's make sure that we get back to our priorities.
Yes.
And so I think if you have, a newborn baby, you're going to go, okay, hey, we're probably not going to be going on date night every week.
Yeah.
But let's get a sitter in here at 6 weeks and let's, go out to dinner.
Yeah.
Or we take the baby with us, or we have, date night at home once the kids go to sleep. Like you just have to get creative and make sure that those things are in place.
Yeah. I think 2 keys that you're talking about there. Number 1 is being creative. Don't feel like you have to fit some mold.
Right.
And don't go online and read some stupid article about what you have to do. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
You figure out what works for your family, and then don't compare. Because that's the hardest thing, I think, is when you look at somebody else's marriage and they're having date nights or they just went on vacation. You're so quick to look at your own and go, we're terrible. We're not doing anything we should, just to be careful in that regard too.
Yeah. And I would say, Jeremy and I, for a long time, our date night was on Thursday night. Well, Lydia's basketball games are Thursday night.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yep.
So then you kind of have to go, okay, now how do we navigate this deal?
Yes.
One thing we have made a commitment to is we go on some kind of a trip together, just the two of us once a year, just Jeremy and I.
Yeah.
Some years, and it took us until 5 years after having kids before we actually flew out of the country to go on a vacation together.
Do you have a will? Come on. Got to have a will before you go across the ocean.
Okay, yes. And I made it on LegalZoom, and then I talked to my lawyer cousin, and he was like, Kate, that's not good. Let me help you. But, sometimes that just means that he and I are getting a weekend away at a hotel. Near here.
Yes.
But it's just something that we're doing together.
Yes, agreed.
And so it just kind of flexes, but there are rhythms that we have in place to make sure that marriage stays healthy.
No, those are such good points. I think you're hitting on so many things that our listeners are going, yes, yes, yes. When I was thinking about just this idea of how the enemy is attacking our marriages, I just, off the top of my head, the things that I think are the biggest struggles for men and women in marriage are time, talking, and touching.
Good.
So our time, you talked about that. You're in different seasons constantly. Just like with motherhood, it's like you feel like you catch on to the growth your child's having, and then they have a growth spurt and you're in a new place.
Yeah.
I have felt that way in marriage all through it. We really struggled early in marriage because we had dated long distance for so long. And so our first couple of years of marriage were rough.
Yeah.
We didn't know how to be in the same city with each other, much less the same house.
Yeah.
And it was very easy for me to look around at these newlywed couples that looked like they were just head over heels in love with each other and go, this is hard.
Uh-huh.
And then we got to the kid phase, and we had waited quite a while to have kids, so we were really ready for it. And I love the newborn phase. So we were having the best time of our life with this little one child. Bless the one child, man. Those days were awesome. But you'd look around other people that were struggling.
Yeah.
Because their babies had colic.
Yeah.
Or they weren't able to go out on a date night,
right.
Or they were nursing. There were so many things.
Yeah.
And then now we're in this new phase with a kid in college and a kid in high school, and I went back to work full time, and it feels like we're figuring it out all over again.
Yeah.
How do you love each other in the midst of busy times?
Right.
How do you make priorities? I think for me, one of the things I think is so interesting is that when he gets home from work, I'm typically in dinner prep, and I don't even think to stop because I am just head down. But then if I call him in the middle of the day at work, he's just walking into a meeting.
Sure.
So he doesn't have time to talk.
Sure.
So it's head down.
Yeah.
So this whole idea of making time to talk is so difficult to figure out.
For sure.
And I think some of the things that we could do, like what you're saying, is some sort of a reminder or routine that hey, every time my husband comes in the door, even if I'm in the middle of stirring the soup, I put the spoon down, I walk over, I give him a big hug and say, I'm so glad you're home.
Yep, I think that's a great one.
And that was 3 seconds.
It's 3 seconds, but it prioritizes him as your partner. One of the things we have to remember is these kids are going to come and go. Mm-hmm. God bless them. We love them so much. But ideally, this man is with you till the end. And he needs to know that he is special to you. You see him. He's the priority.
Right.
And so, it's so great, I think, to stop and look at him and say, I'm glad you're home.
Yes.
And engage.
But on the same hand, I would say to us, to tell our spouse, hey, if I do call you at work and you're able to answer the phone, I need you to. I need you to just say hello. Mm-hmm. Is there anything I can do for you, honey?
Yeah.
Oh, no, are you in a meeting? Yes, I'm in a meeting. Okay, great. I just wanted to hear your voice.
Yeah.
I think for us as the wife, we need to feel like we're a priority as well.
Yeah.
And so maybe you should need to say to your spouse, look, if you just answer the phone and say, babe, I love you so much, I just can't talk right now, that would make a world of difference.
Yeah, when I call during the day, I say, do you have a minute to talk? And if he says, no, I'm walking into a meeting or I'm sitting here with a group of people or something, but I didn't want to miss your call, I'm like, okay, no big deal. Just call me later.
Right. Right.
But I used to just start diving in. I would call and he would answer and I'd be like, brrr, And so I had to start asking, is now a good time to talk? But there is a art to that little situation during the day because we are in potentially work mode or mom mode or whatever it is.
Yes, exactly. And I think that whole idea of talking is so key. We were talking about earlier, it all goes hand in hand. When you have time to talk, it really does create a connection.
Yes.
And when you're not talking to each other, there feels like there's a void or there's something there.
Yeah.
Even if there's nothing.
Yeah.
Even if both people are perfectly happy, when you're not talking, you're not connecting.
Yes.
And so we have to figure out a way for us to connect with each other. And for women, it's usually through our words. Like we want to be able to get off our chest what happened that day or how we're feeling. And half the time, my husband has really no idea what's going on with the conversation.
Yeah.
But I just need him to listen.
Yeah.
I just need him to listen and don't try and fix the situation. Just be like, babe, I cannot believe that happened to you.
Yes.
That is crazy.
Yes.
I mean, help me
But
out,
with
brother.
us too, I think we always give men a hard time about being fixers. You know, like we complain about something, they're like, well, here's what you need to do. But can we be honest? I think we do that too.
Yeah.
You know, they tell us there's a situation at work or whatever, and we're like, well, you know, have you thought about blah, blah, blah? And they, you know, he does not need that from me.
Yes.
He needs for me too to go, oh, that sucks.
Yes.
You know, and
Yes.
just to keep asking more questions and be interested. And,
Yep.
you know, when my husband comes home from playing golf, it sounds all the same to me. He two-putted something, he chipped in something, he got something on the back nine.
But man, he's excited about telling you about that back nine.
And he's so excited to tell me.
Yes.
So I'm like, so now when he comes home, I'm like, how was golf? And I just ask him, and he'll say, oh, I blah, blah, oh my gosh, an eagle, a birdie, a peacock, great, you know? And we just listen and we celebrate and then we move along.
That's right. That's right. I think one of the things when I got married, I had really unrealistic expectations of how we were going to talk to each other. We've just watched way too many chick flicks.
Sure.
Netflix and Hollywood do not do justice to how people actually talk in real life.
Yeah, just the daily actual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody doing that.
Yeah.
And I just had this completely unrealistic expectation of how our conversations would go. And if for some reason there was a tiff or a struggle, that he would just immediately say he was sorry. That does not happen in my life.
Yeah.
And I've told several people this, like I would go hide in the closet because I would want him to come find me. Because if he came and found me, that would make me feel better. And he doesn't come find me. He has never once come found me in the closet.
Is that something that you ever told him? Like, I expect you to come and find me?
Yes, so we've talked about that before because I'd be like, have you not figured this out yet?
Yeah.
Like when I leave the room, it's because I want you to come after me.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm not coming after you.
And I'm the opposite because I'm like, if I leave the room, it means I need a minute. Do not come after me.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to say something that I don't mean. You know, I need a minute for the Holy Spirit to catch up with my anger because, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. You have to be honest with your spouse to let them know, okay, do you have some sort of an expectation with our conversations? Do you need me to ask questions or just to sit and listen? It makes things go so much easier when you're just honest with each other about what you as a person really needs.
Yeah.
And so I had to realize that me going to the closet was selfish. It really was. It was my form of manipulation.
Okay.
Because if he came and found me, then that was saying to me that I was right and he was wrong. And that's just not how he rolls.
Yeah.
Like, he wants to talk it out, but he ain't doing it in the closet. And so I had to realize, I love what you said earlier about a lot of the things that we bring into marriage that we struggle with are the selfish expectations that we have for the other person.
Yeah, and bless marriage because it just takes a big old spotlight and just shines it on the grossest parts of ourselves.
Yes. And then, of course, that leads to the touching. Because if you're not spending time together and you're not feeling heard,
Right.
then you have no desire to be touched.
Absolutely.
And this is one of those, like, I feel like it's like a weird thing to talk about, but it's the whole reason that God made Adam and Eve. Like, he brought them together in the garden to become one.
Yeah.
And it's the thing that sets that relationship apart from every other relationship in your life.
Right.
Is that you have this opportunity to be intimate with this person.
Right.
And we know the benefit of it because when you are regularly being together in that way, it really does create this freedom in your marriage.
Yes.
Where you feel seen and heard. You have more patience with each other. You have more of a desire to serve. But it's this tug and pull where it's almost like we're holding out on the other person because we're trying to get our way. And so it's almost like you're making them earn the opportunity to spend time with you in the bedroom.
Sure.
And that is just so far from what God wanted for us in a marriage relationship.
Yes. Yeah. Well, okay, I can add on to that. I just wasn't sure where else you wanted to go with it.
We wading into tender territory.
Yeah,
here.
I mean, it really is really touchy because it's very nuanced. Because there are a lot of ways in which both spouses can abuse that part of the relationship.
Right.
And so there are women who are part of marriages listening to this, and I think that's who was just coming to my mind right now, is there are women who are part of relationships in which this is being treated unhealthily by their husband.
Sure.
And they're potentially, being asked to engage in things or being, engaged more often than they feel comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And so, I just want us to be so careful about what we say. I think what we're trying to talk about is in a situation where both people are generally healthy and we're talking about a generally healthy situation, not one in which there is abuse or there is former abuse. If that's your situation, then you probably likely need to make sure that there's a professional helping you guys navigate that part of your relationship, because there's going to be deep schisms in there that are going to affect your ability to be able to have regular intimacy.
Right.
So that's who was on my mind.
Yes.
It's just making sure that we address that.
Sure.
I think in healthy, whereas, you've got two healthy partners with not hormonal issues, there's just a lot, friend.
Girl, are they out there? Are we out there? People without hormonal issues?
Right. I'm just saying there's just a lot to tread in here about, because all that piece, what you're saying is so important of that. That's that one part of that. You only share that part of this relationship with this person.
Right.
It's the only thing, you don't share this with anybody else. And so it seems like we have an enemy who really wants to come after that part. And there's so many things that can affect, a healthy, consistent, intimate relationship, physical relationship with your spouse. And so that's an area where we need to fight. And so if we are struggling to not want to be physical, then we need to look at it. We need to look at it from a relational perspective. We need to look at it from a time perspective. We need to look at it from our physicality perspective. Yep. Are you taking medication that's affecting that? Do you need to be on medication or hormones or something that's affecting it? Is there something going on within you, in your soul, where you need to go and get some help? I think I just want to say, fight for it, because this can be a beautiful part of your relationship. But this is an area where in various ways the enemy is going to want to target and dismantle this piece.
Yeah, and I would say, looking back over, I've been married now 24 years. I go in and out of being fully healthy often.
Yes.
Because of hormones. Yeah. Because of stress. So it's one of those things where I just want us to remember that the enemy knows that, and he's going to use that in the way that he talks to you to make you feel like, well, it's okay because this is my struggle. It's okay. And so what you're saying about fight, it's just that idea of speaking up for yourself. For those of you that are in relationships that are not healthy, speak up. For those of you that feel like you're depressed or anxious, speak up. For those of you that feel like you just need another godly woman to just give you some advice and wisdom, speak up. Yeah. It's that whole part of advocating for ourselves. Yeah. We advocate for our kids. We advocate at school. We advocate on sports teams. But how often do we advocate for our marriage?
For sure. And I think with marriages too, there's an element of shame. Mm-hmm. And so we don't say anything when really, if you sat in a room with other women who love Jesus and you said, hey, I'm having a hard time in this part of my marriage, I think you would be shocked by how many say, same.
I think we'd all raise our hand.
Yeah. Yeah. And at varying degrees of this is going really great or we're in a tough season. Yeah. And I think it's really strong what you just said too about there are seasons where it's easier and there are seasons where you really have to fight for it. Mm-hmm. But you don't give up. You keep fighting. Exactly. And the easy will likely return.
That's right. And you're fighting for it for the long term too. I just want to remind us, what you said earlier about these kids come and go. Like eventually they are going to be with their own families one day, and you're going to be looking at this person next to you. And I want to be just as in love with him that day as I was when we got married.
Yeah.
But part of that takes this intentional work of saying, I want to be your best friend. I want to know you. So that when we're, older, we are still happily married.
Yeah.
I'm not happily married every day. I got issues.
Sure.
But it's this idea of like, it matters enough to me that I'm willing to go to bat for whatever I have to for this person.
Yes.
And I agree with you. I don't think there's anybody listening right now that would go, man, we are killing it on all cylinders right now. If I am, that's usually like 2 days a month that you're like, dude, we are awesome. We have talked and slept and ate and all the things.
Even when we were in magical Italy, we had been there for 10 days. And
where all romantic things happen.
We had been, but listen, you're together 24/7.
Yes.
On the train, on the boat, in the hotel room, walking through Rome. You were together 24/7. And so by the time we got to the Amalfi Coast, and I'm an introvert. So by the time we got to the Amalfi Coast, Jeremy was like, I know that you need a little bit of time.
Oh, babe, you noticed. Thank you.
I said, I do, but I don't know how, there's nowhere to get away, Yeah. So we get into we stayed in this really beautiful villa on the coast, and we get into the room, and he goes, how about, because it's beautiful outside.
Yes.
He goes, I'm going to go sit out on the patio. I'm going to go watch a movie out there. I'm going to take some time. Would you like, or would you want to be in the bedroom? You pick. And that was just very thoughtful.
Yes.
Because I did just need a minute of like not having to hear him sniff or breathe, you know.
Yes. Yes.
So, there, even in magical Italy, there were times when it was like, oh, we're eating gelato and it's all magic. And sometimes it was like, you're breathing too loud in Italy.
Yes. Yes.
So you're just navigating, and we don't give up. And it just brings me back to Ephesians 6, us remembering that our battle is not flesh and blood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's against the spiritual forces that are at work. And so we have to remember that our husbands are not our enemies.
That's right.
We do have an enemy, and he would love nothing more than to separate our husbands and ourselves and put us on opposite sides of the battle line. Once he's done that, then he's like, okay, good. I've won.
Yeah,
because now I've got you fighting each other instead of fighting me.
That's right.
But so what we have to remember is that he and I are together as one, fighting as a team against a common enemy.
That's right. I read this when I was working on this, and I thought it was so good in response to how I think that Satan is our enemy and attacks us. It says he disguises himself as a voice of reason and comes to you in moments that are unguarded. He plants seeds of doubt about things that God has revealed to you already to be true. He is pure evil and wants nothing more than to ruin a healthy marriage.
Okay, so here's when it pointing out things. All right, so have you ever heard of this concept of a reticular activator? I know. Listen, don't roll your eyes.
SAT word. What we doing now?
Okay, it's the thing where, like, if you're ever shopping for a car, like, let's say you go shop for a Honda Odyssey, and then you start seeing them everywhere on the road.
Okay.
Or like, you're thinking of getting a purple shirt, and all of a sudden everybody you see is wearing purple shirts.
You're wearing a purple shirt today.
Okay. But that's your reticular activator. Okay. So I think the same thing is true in our relationships, and especially with our spouses. If we start believing and we start thinking about all the things that they're doing wrong, that's all we're going to see.
Yes.
He's not doing this. He's not doing that.
He never. Yes.
Then your brain, you just start, that is what you are looking for all the time.
Right.
And that is what you start to see. And then, unfortunately, probably that is what he becomes.
Yes.
Because that is the concept that you are reinforcing.
Yes.
So we have to make a decision about, with our spouses, what am I going to see in him? And so we start looking for not what he's not doing, but what he is doing.
Yes.
And all of the things we love about him, the way that God has used him to bless us, all of the giftedness he has, the good things he's doing. We start intentionally looking for, noticing, and celebrating those things. And that gets bigger.
Well, and you talked about that with the whole idea of Jehoshaphat, is then when they went into battle, he put the praise team up front. Like, let's just go ahead and thank God
there you go.
for what he's already doing.
Yeah.
So in our marriage, I could just go ahead and thank God for what he's already doing. I'm so thankful I have this spouse, this father of my children who provides for us, just being grateful and thankful for the things that are already going good. Because you're right. When I put that at the forefront of my mind, it just changes my whole perspective.
Yeah.
And we talk about that all the time with other parts of our life too, that gratitude is actually the key to getting to that next place in your life. And so we just need to be thankful. So definitely we need to make sure that we're praising God for our marriage and for this person that he's given us to do life with. Despite all the things that need to be worked on, there are things to be thankful for.
Yes.
And then we need to pray. We need to set our face to pray for our marriage. And I will be the first to say that I forget. I just forget to pray for my marriage.
Sure.
I pray for my kids. I pray for their tests. I pray for their tryouts. I pray for all these things. But then, and I think I tell myself I pray for my spouse, but then I don't know if I'm as intentional about it as I should be.
Yeah.
That I'm taking that time to really sit down and spend intentional time praying for him. And I think we have to remind ourselves, moms, that we don't have time. We think we don't have time for that. I have too many other things to do. I need to get to bed, or I need to get up and go, or I need to do the laundry. And the thing that's going to make the biggest difference in your life is prayer over the laundry, over the errands, over the cooking.
And they can overlap.
And they can overlap.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. I'm that type of prayer that I'm like,
I know you are. I'm just saying.
I like to be in that space where it's like just me praying.
But I was convicted about that recently because I set a reminder that goes off every day at 9 a.m. for me to pray for the leadership of my church. And so, honestly, I was like 6 months in to praying for them every day. And I heard the Lord say, Kate, are you praying for your husband and your children like this?
You said, oh, is there a reminder? I don't, okay.
And I had to go, oh.
Yes.
Oh, wait, you know?
Yes.
But it was kind of like, why are you not consistently praying? But, then it becomes a rhythm and it's just something that you do. But, I think it's very common for us just to forget to pray. And instead we just, I don't know, get bitter. And the thoughts that we're having about them are not prayerful praise thoughts. They're, he didn't do this. He didn't call me. He didn't answer the phone. He didn't help with dinner, blah, blah, blah.
Well, and I think, as this episode's coming out for you mamas, we're right here at Valentine's Day. And that's God. We did not plan it that way, but it's just a great opportunity where as you prepare for Valentine's Day, if you're a mom, I already know you're thinking about your kids' Valentines and teddy bears and candy. Instead of trying to get your husband like the next greatest Valentine gift, maybe you just give him the gift of prayer and you just say, babe, I really want to be more intentional in praying for you this year, because that is a gift of love.
That. Yeah.
And doing what Kate said and setting a reminder on your phone or putting something in place that as a rhythm that reminds you to do that.
And what a gift to say to him, how can I be praying for you?
Yeah. That's
good. What are you going after? Where do you see God at work? How can I join you with that in prayer?
Yes. So the way I'd love to end our episode today is actually to lead us in a prayer.
Okay.
And so I'm going to pray it, and then you can pause the podcast or turn it off when you're done and pray it on your own. But I just want to give you some verbiage, some words to go with this idea of praying for our marriages. Heavenly Father, I am coming to you today to ask for help. My marriage is not what it should be, and I need your guidance and wisdom. Lord, I ask you to search me and know my heart, test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you and lead me along your path. God, forgive me for the ways that I have put others before my spouse. Help me to be a better spouse and to be able to approach my spouse with any issues so that we can be on the same page. We want to work on this issue together. God, I thank you for my spouse, and I thank you for the love that you have for me. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
That's beautiful.
Okay, thanks, moms. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.